I'm Mike Dobrota, and this is Terraquip Talk. After years of providing drilling equipment solutions, I know that a project success hinges on reliable, high-quality rigs that meet your needs. So if you're ready to make smarter equipment decisions and build stronger foundations, let's get started. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Terraquip Talk. You know what, we haven't been in the studio for quite some time now. We actually have a new studio that we're filming in for today, because we wanted to be closer to our current guest that's going to be here today, which I'm going to introduce in just a second. So as I was saying, we haven't been in the studio for a long time. We haven't posted any episodes. So actually last week, it was the first week in 6 or 7 months that we haven't posted episode. But now we're back at it. And I'm very excited to be here with someone that we haven't worked with before. So we've known for a very long time, but we haven't actually directly worked. And as I said to you guys, if you're someone that wants to be in our studio and have a chat and share your story, even if you're someone that we never worked with, that's perfectly fine. We're more than happy to have you. So without going too much into it, I want to welcome here Murat from CF Group.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time to come here.
Thank you.
As you can see, we made it easier for you to come and be close to your headquarters.
Yes, you have. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So Murat is the construction manager for CF Group, which is a major player in the foundation industry in Australia for the last 20 years, 25 years, pretty much. And Murat is someone that has started and worked his way through the rankings. He's been through multiple positions. I was looking at his, I knew Murat, of course, but I didn't know all his positions. So I was going through his LinkedIn and I was seeing all the positions that he's, he has such a nice ascension through his career and at CF Group. And I'm glad to see that. Moreover, he's also, I've discovered someone that kind of started in the piling at the same time that I started, which is about 15 years ago. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself and let us know a bit about your journey.
Sure. No, thanks for having me, Mike. It's been a great journey, to be honest. 14 years in the industry. Next year will be my 15th year. It's been very fast paced. So sometimes you sit back, you look at it, you're like 15 years is just flew. You can't even count the years, to be honest. So it's been a blessing. I really like the piling industry. The different challenges that it brings out on daily basis. I like the team that I work with.
The stress.
Well. Yeah, the stress as well. Yeah, that's something my wife complains about all the time. But look, I like it. I like the challenge that it brings. It wasn't planned. When I was going through my university studies, I never thought I would be in piling.
So you finished uni which year? How long ago?
2011. That's when I graduated. Okay. Yeah. And as soon as I graduated, you're looking for a full-time position. So I was applying left, right, center, whichever position was becoming available. I never targeted a specific position, to be honest. To my luck, I found a position close to my house at the time. It was just about 5 minutes drive.
Nice.
It was a structural engineering firm. So worked there for about a year, but it was just overspaced. And towards the end of the year, I said, look, it's not for me. I like the outdoor environment. I like to be out there. I like to get my hands dirty. I want to be involved in the construction and seeing the buildings come up. So, bit of a fortunate. I had a friend of my brother that was working in CF Group, and he was looking to go for a long holiday. And he said, look, during my time off, CF Group is looking for someone to come and cover the place. Would you be interested? I said, why not? So straight away took the challenge and went in and done the interview. And thanks to Sally, at the time was the general manager, she hired me and she gave me the opportunity.
I've met Sally, yeah.
Yeah, she's a great person. She was the one that pushed me to get into it, and she assisted me to get into piling. Yeah. So it was great to work with her.
So was she like a mentor sort of thing at the beginning?
She was mentor, and I was pretty young at the time. You're 21, 22, out of uni. You're a bit lost. You don't know what your future holds. You don't know where to go. And she assisted me a lot. She guided me in the right path. And because you're dealing with the daily struggles and the daily stresses, and constantly she was like, Murat, I know you can do it. Yeah, let's do it this way. I'll give you assistance. Well, I'll give you whatever you need. Let's make it happen. So in that sense, I'm grateful that she helped me a lot. And over time that evolved. So you start on site as a project engineer, site engineer to say the least, to be honest. I was on site, and you learned from the basics up. So I was on the ground, setting up laser levels, doing your inclinometer readings, and doing your set out with the supervisors, trying to get that basic understanding of the in-ground works. We were stressing, de-stressing anchors to understand how the stressing works, working with the RMS to understand the specs and the deflections of the walls, and slowly you evolve. And CF Group being at the time, gave me that opportunity to evolve. And as soon as an opportunity was there, they asked me, and I said, well, why not? I'm happy to take the challenge. So,
did you know something about CF Group or their position in the market, or?
When I first started, not really. I had an understanding thanks to that friend of mine. He told me what CF Group was doing. But when we first started, it was like, mate, you're on the ground, go learn the hard way. So, so it was
discover later.
And that exactly that was it. It was challenging because you're dealing with a lot of guys on the ground. They got a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge, and you're someone just junior, straight out of university.
Trying to build a name, right?
Yeah,
trying to find your way and fill some shoes.
And they question. They put you to your limits. They question everything that you learned at uni. Yeah, and sometimes what you learn at uni doesn't apply on site. But
totally different world.
Totally different. Yeah, yeah. Give me theory, I can calculate, I can do everything for you. But coming to practical, applying it on site, it's difficult. That's where the experience and knowledge comes into play.
So you mentioned about the challenges that you faced on site and through the, with clients and with the projects that you were running. I guess, what is your mindset when you're faced on paper with that kind of like impossible sort of scenario for the job? What's your mindset to become that problem solver? And obviously you've done it so many times because you've worked your way out through the ranks, right? To become the construction manager.
So initially when we had problems on site, you straight away very proactive. You're like, oh, I got to jump in a car, I got to make phone calls, I got to send emails, whatever it is that you need to get yourself out of that situation as quick as possible to find a solution. But by time and as you evolve, you gain that experience. So sometimes nowadays I get the phone call, they give me the issue, I said, okay, let me call you back. You hang up, you sit down, you think about it for 5-10 minutes on the best way to tackle the scenario, obviously cost effective, time constraints to get back onto, to get the machine back.
It's not only about solving the issue, it's how much it's going to cost to solve the issue.
Exactly, and the time frame. Sometimes it may mean
yeah.
changing machines over, it may mean changing crews or teams over, but you got to work with that. And I'm thankful I got a good team. So sometimes, like I said, when we sit down and I hang up on that phone, I sit down and call my mates, within that company, tell them what our problems is, and work with it to come to a solution. So we're doing that. It actually really helped us nowadays. We take a calm approach, relaxed approach, and when we're noticing is actually the best approach compared to before when we were inexperienced. You're just into it. You're jumping in a car to go
react a bit too fast.
Very reactive, and it just wasn't efficient. Nowadays we're more efficient, and that comes with experience and knowledge. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the attitude about it is so important as well, and it does. That calmness does come from experience. Like I've been in this situation before. How did we solve it? What's the worst that can happen? Like you just sort of, take a step back. But yeah, it's funny you mentioned, how you started at CF Group. When I left my my previous position when I was working, Tony was actually one of the first people. Tony Darren being the managing director the owner of CF Group, and he actually called me and said, "What are you doing? I heard you left such and such company. What are you doing? Come and work for me. Come on, let's catch up. Listen." I was like, "Oh, Tony, I don't know. Oh, what? You don't? Okay, you're gonna start your own company, don't you?"
Yeah.
All right. I didn't even say anything.
Yeah.
He picked it up straight away that I'm gonna start my own company.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Yeah, no worries, you go. All right, go, no worries."
Tony is a very intelligent man. He thinks outside the box. Sometimes we have these issues.
Not only outside the box, but he thinks 3 steps ahead of the box.
and that's the reason he's built this company to where he is now. Sometimes we sit back, we question whether we're doing it right or wrong. But when you sit back and you think about it 2 to 3 days later, you're like, well, Tony's right and his approach is right, and we got to do it what he's telling us to do because it makes sense now. But initially, when you first get that phone call, it's just like, okay, are you sure? Do we really need to do it that way? 3 days later, and you start working on it, and it makes sense. So his intelligence, we don't question it. He's got a very great memory nowadays. It's just amazing. Yeah, he doesn't forget. He remembers everything. Very humble. Very humble. And look, if it wasn't for him, I don't think I'll be in this company for this long. And I really enjoy working with Tony and the team. Obviously, we've created.
Look, I'm sure everybody agrees that has met Tony that he's the sort of person you can't really be upset with him.
Yeah.
We said it earlier. You can't be upset with Tony. So
yeah. It's a relationship that you form. It's the same type of relationship sometimes you form with your close mates or even your lifelong partner. You may get upset one day, but the next day you put it behind you. You're like, okay, let's just get on with it. And Tony 100%. Is that type of character. He doesn't hold back grudges. He just forgets it, and you move on with him. And
proactive way.
He's been a great boss to work with, to be honest.
Obviously, he's going to watch now, so you got to be careful what you're saying.
No, to be honest,
I'm just kidding.
To be honest, regardless of what I say, I'm sure he'll be supportive of it and he would agree with it. But that's the reality.
I remember one of the first meetings that I've had with Tony. It was my first year starting in the industry, so obviously my experience was very limited. My knowledge was very limited about machinery, and when Tony started talking, it was so hard, to keep up with like all the machines and all the values and all the models and all the things that he wanted to do and all this stuff. Like you'd sort of like leave the meeting after 1 hour and be like, okay, what just happened? You know?
Yeah, that's typical Tony. You just gotta pick the words. You gotta see what his thoughts are, and just work off that. It's a bit hard sometimes to catch. We try to work with it. Like I said, after 13 or 14 years, you get to understand how Tony works.
Yeah.
And pick that up slowly.
You know what? I did invite Tony to come for a podcast, to be in our podcast. And he said, like, I'm really busy, you have to talk to Murat, and I'll see if I can come. But you know what I want to do? I want to be able to get Tony in a podcast with a few other managing directors, to have like a 3-way conversation, because I know how other managing directors are. I'm not going to give names right now, but they're kind of similar to Tony, right? They have like a million ideas. And that's what's great about these people, right? That's how they've made it. That's how they become who they become. They have so many ideas, right? And their mind works so fast, right?
Correct,
like and it would be interesting to get in a room, this sort of people.
I would say so.
And kind of like, just press start and then just watch.
I think the conversation will just evolve and it will never end.
It's just like a domino sort of explosion,
And you're right. It's just the ideas, the constant ideas. Tony doesn't take no for an answer. He always has a solution for and ideas. Whether it works or it doesn't work, you just throw out the ideas, and surely enough, you one of those ideas actually makes sense, and you act on it, and you end up solving your problem by that just one idea.
So I remember the first machine that I sold to Tony, not with Terraquip, with a previous company that I worked for. It was only like a 30-40 ton class machine, and Tony having his Bauers and Liebherrs, like 600 kilowatts engines, and powerful big muscle machine, right? And then all of a sudden, this small little thing, is the small machine, smallest machine he's ever worked with. He's like, yeah, no worries, we'll. I remember even today, he was supposed to be drilling 17 meters in CFA, 750 mil diameter.
Yep.
In the Zetland sand, right? It was just unbelievable. Of course, that machine couldn't carry on, to the full depth. It was just bugging at about 14, 15 meters. And Tony was like, like he was trying to joke, in a laughing manner. He was like, I'm going to kill you. You told me you can drill, 17, 18 meters, in 900 diameter. I was like, well, that's kind of like on paper.
Yeah.
Like you got to be careful with those sort of things.
Yeah.
But anyway, he knew very well, what the capabilities are, and especially Zetland sand, which is so
Funny enough,
challenging.
We actually did end up getting 17 meters on that rig, 750 in Zetland.
Yeah?
Yeah. So we work around the challenges that we have, and we come up with different solutions or different ways of approaching that problem. Just maybe another 50 meters down the road, we ended up using that rig to do 17 meters in CFA in Zetland sands. We made it work.
Just by adding segments?
No,
Or actually using the snorkel?
actually using the snorkel, but different methods of drilling, and yeah.
Okay, you don't have to tell me. I'm just gonna like throw in ideas. You just say yes or no.
Sure.
Were you patting the walls of the pile as you're going down in order to try to keep that material away?
Not
No,
necessarily.
okay.
Yeah.
So not segmental. Obviously, no air. We're using air.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So that's it.
That makes a difference.
Because usually there's three different solutions. You know that. By the way, the purpose of this podcast is also to give people ideas and maybe people that are not so experienced. For people that is experienced, of course, they can just like fast forward this. But we're also trying to give people the knowledge, not only to give a voice to the industry, right, with this podcast. So that don't know, usually you have three solutions when you get stuck in CFA. When you have a machine that you really have to use, and as soon as you put your snorkel in the ground, the first meter, 2 meters, and then that's it. It just doesn't want to go anymore. It's no finito la musica. So no forward rotation, no extraction, no penetration, nothing. Your only way is to literally just reverse spin and pull back.
Yeah.
That's all you can do. There you have three solutions. Number one, don't worry about the snorkel. As soon as you get in the ground, literally break the auger, take the snorkel out, put another segment. Because if you're using the auger, you can actually keep the material away, so then you can extract. But then when you extract, obviously it's going to be messy because you're going to have concrete everywhere, right? Because you got to take the auger off and then put your snorkel back in and then continue, right? Maybe by that time, your concrete is going to go too hard because you're wasting too much time. You're not going to be able to put your cage. So It's got its challenges. But that's number one. Number two, you can put air. You can drill with air, right? And we've done this. We've done it in Parramatta. Terrible CFA conditions there.
Yes.
We're drilling 900 diameter, actually with a 60-ton rig.
Yeah.
And everybody was saying, like, there's no way you're going to drill this to 17, 18 meters without installing air. And we did, and that made a huge difference. We went from, like, 40 minutes a pile.
Yeah.
Sorry, from 2.5 hours a pile to 40 minutes.
Wow.
So there's, like, 5 times less time.
Yeah.
Just by using air. It was literally impossible. Like at 12, 13 meters, it would just, because Parramatta is really difficult. Same as Zetland. And then the third solution is, if you're not using air, if you're not using segmental, what sometimes operators do, but you got to be super skilled as an operator. You can pad you can insert a little bit of concrete as you go down. So then all that concrete as you going down kind of like gets displaced and secures the walls of the pile, in order for all that sand not to break in when you're trying to extract, to stop you and to create that friction.
Yep. Yep.
If there's any other methods,
No,
I'm happy to.
I think everything you've explained makes sense. And depends on your team, and depends on the experience of the supervisor that's on the ground and the operator, because these little things make big difference. You can put as much air as you want, but if the operator is going to go smash the rig and go full penetration, you can just choke up the augers, corkscrew yourself in. So these are the challenges.
Have you had situations where the auger would just not come out of the ground, where you had to like just chop it off? It like, see you later. That's a very good pile there. Very good reinforcement.
Look, these challenges come along, but we don't give up. You work with this scenario. Fortunately, we haven't had these scenarios, and hopefully we will never have. But when the time comes, it's a decision that the company needs to make, and it's the risk sometimes that you're willing to take when you're drilling into grounds. And drilling into grounds, you may have a borehole here and there, not in the middle. That could be 50 meters or 100 meters apart. You don't know what the actual ground is in the middle. So,
and luckily for us, we get to bury our mistakes.
Depends if it's shoring or foundation.
Yeah, that's sure,
makes a difference. Yeah. No, in that sense, look, we've been fortunate enough. We've had challenges along the way, but we work with our teams and I don't know, come to a compromise or find a solution to actually retrieve whatever we've left in the ground.
Hey, before we continue with our episode, I just want to say, if you're someone that shares our passion for drilling, you have experience and you want to tell your story right here at Terraquip Talk, we would be more than happy to have you, even if you're someone from a company that doesn't use our equipment. Now back to the episode. Speaking of challenging projects, Murat, you guys did Western Sydney as well. You worked on the Western Sydney airport,
That's right, yeah.
Can you share a little bit about that project? It's finished, right?
It has finished, yeah.
what sort of challenges, because that was an iconic project for Sydney, for CF Group as well.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure.
Project?
It was a challenging project because it was an oval shape, temporary shaft for a tunnel boring machine to go under, and it was just fly under. It was not the start of the TBM. It was further down, but this is just the service temporary shaft basically. It was oval shaped. It required secant piles and a lot of rock drilling as well.
How deep was it?
It was about 15 to 18 meters deep.
Okay.
And a lot of rock drilling. Yeah.
So that area there in Western Sydney's got really hard material, or is it more like CFA type material?
It's ideal for CFA, but it's got its constraints and challenges. You're drilling into stiff clays over shale.
So is it similar to, I've never been involved in that area. Is it similar to Parramatta?
Parramatta, you got the marine muds, but here is a bit more stiff clays.
A bit more stiff clay.
Yeah, stiff clays, yeah. And you may chirk up as you're drilling, so you got to be very careful, and you got to put the right gear and equipment on site with the right operators. But
were they secant piles or they?
There were secant piles, interlocking secant piles, yeah, with overcut. So yeah, it had a lot of challenges, to keep your verticalities to right design requirements and so on. So it had its challenges, but we managed to get through it. In
terms of the dynamic loads and the forces on that wall, was something specific about that project. Can you talk a little bit about that?
That job from the start, it was challenging. So we had to work very closely with the engineers. As I said earlier, it was an oval shaped shaft. So from the design requirements, we were going back and forth with the engineers. So as you come around the corner, the piles interlock more and more. So sometimes you're biting into your soft piles and becomes a non-existent.
And the precision, right? Like the precision had to be absolutely perfect, right? There was no play in that.
No. So that from the start, we were working very closely with the engineers in regards to the design of the secant piles with the overcuts, and also working with the architects to make sure that we get the nice oval shape. So, getting your DWG, sending it over, getting your pods made, getting the surveyor to mark out, installing the pods, remeasuring the pods, and doing it again, before you actually pour the guide wall.
Very time consuming.
It was time consuming. It had its challenges, but look, I think, you just take it as it comes and you work with the team. So, yeah.
Now, another challenging project, and especially for you, it was particularly challenging. We spoke about this because at that time you were also having your first child, first boy, was it?
Yes.
Was, I think, just out of COVID, right?
That's right, yeah.
And you had to move to Queensland to introduce CSM there.
Yeah.
The purpose of this is we're trying to educate the people, right? What is CSM? Can you tell us a little bit about CSM?
It's
this technology.
The name comes from cutter soil mix. So you got your cutters, you put it into the ground. You got a batching plant, which you make slurry, and you mix the in situ sands in the ground with the slurry mix, and with an end product of basically like I won't say a concrete wall, but like a slurry wall, which you can use as a permanent or temporary walls.
Okay. Now, the cutter soil mixing is not suitable for any kind of ground. It's got to be just sand. Is that right?
It's open. So you got to, get your geotechnical reports, assess it. There's different ways of approaching different ground conditions. It's ideal for sandy grounds, but you can use it for other types of grounds as well. Where but there's a lot of thought and design that goes into it.
Because you're using the material that you're basically mixing, right? Like you're not excavating pretty much anything, right? A very small percentage you're actually taking out, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Roughly, what do you say, like 20%, 30% you're taking out, or not even?
Depends on the ground and the drilling parameters that we do. You could be anywhere from 20 to 30 to 40% sometimes.
Oh, okay, up to 40%.
Yeah, it's up to your penetration rate, your flow rate, and your extraction rates. All depend on how much material you leave in or take out. So we work very closely with the teams on site and the operators and the supervisors to make sure that we get that right panel in the ground.
Obviously, the reinforcement.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
Structural beams.
Structural beams,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
That's a very efficient method, like a very cost-effective, isn't it?
It's cost-effective, but very complicated.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's got a lot of moving parts, a lot of different, experience on every field of that installation. Whether it's your batching plant operator, whether it's your supervisor, your rig operator, your leading hand at the front, they work in unison, and experience and the challenges come along. So over the years, I think, we specialize in CSM. We've come up different ways of installing the CSM.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have a chat with you or to Tony, because you guys are specialists in CSM. You've been doing it for such a long time, and this is a technology that it's good, to talk, about, rather than just talking about Kelly bar, bore pile or CFA.
Agreed. Yeah,
So it's actually quite interesting. It's quite from what I was discussing with Tony back then, he sees this as a very cost-effective solution. And I think that's how he's become very, very successful as well. He found that niche in the market and pushed on that.
Yeah.
Now, in previous companies that I worked, and we're doing like different classes on the ground engineering, and we're talking about different drilling methods and different foundation types. Whenever they were using something, soil mixing, cutter soil mixing, whatever, they would use this as a soil improvement sort of technology.
Yeah.
What's your opinion? Do you think it's more of can be used in both, like as a actual structural wall, or also like as a?
I do believe it can be used as a structural wall and as a shoring wall, whether it's temporary or permanent. We've been installing it for the last 15 to 20 years, and we go back on some of the projects we've installed about 20 years ago.
But that's because of the actual beams, like the actual reinforcement, right?
The reinforcing is just a structural component of it, but
Yeah.
the wall itself is permanent. And when we go in, like I said, for 20 years ago, the projects that we've done, you look at the walls and they're still
intact. Yeah,
they're
perfect,
still intact.
Yeah.
They're still watertight. They're still in good nick. So, it proves that the method is actually a proven method now. It doesn't need to be just a slurry wall, a temporary wall. It could be a permanent wall as well.
What are some of the challenges? Because I know the machines they're so complicated. Like you're talking about all the, I guess all the high pressure hydraulics that happen at the bottom in the actual, because you've got those wheels, right?
The cutters,
that cut and mix at the same time. What are some of the challenges that you encounter with the equipment when it comes to cutter soil mixing, to CSM?
There's a lot of challenges. You got to take every job differently. We constantly, every time we get a project, we sit down with the team and discuss the best way of doing that project. The challenges could be any way. You could hit an anchor in the ground. You could have a sewer main in the ground that you need to work around it. You could have obstructions in the ground, and you could be drilling in. Sometimes you got pit layers that you need to deal with, or clay layers that you need to deal with.
Because in clay, it doesn't do well, right? Cutter soil mixing.
It does, but there's different ways of how you can deal with that scenario. So it's
not the same.
Yeah, so we got to plot out and understand what sort of ground conditions we're drilling, and drilling parameters and so on. So with that gets relayed back to the supervisors and operators, and we sit down with them and tackle every job, independently and separately. So those are the challenges, and there's different challenges. You're working on like you said, high pressure hydraulics. They got to constantly be working. You can't have a cutter fail in the ground. So these are the important challenges, and we're constantly working with our yard team and the plant managers and fitters.
Speaking of high pressure, it's not really high pressure, but it happened when I was actually on site with one of the smaller machines, and it was I don't think it was a CFA. I can't remember if it was what sort of rig it was, but one of the hoses, the grout hoses, burst.
Oh wow!
And I got sprayed.
Oh wow!
Like head to toes.
That was that CF group?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Okay.
I was like, that's it. I'm going home.
Yeah.
Nothing happened. It was quite far away, but enough to just spray me.
Yeah.
And as I was walking back to my car where I parked, people were looking at me like, because I was fully grey.
Yeah. I think we've all been through that.
Like, just my eyes, like.
We've all been through that. There's days I've come home, I'm covered in grout and clay and mud, and you just take your clothes off before you even walk into the house. But look, that's the fun part of the industry we're in, to be honest.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Look, we do work in a very dangerous industry, and as a construction manager, I'm sure that's one of your top priorities as well. To make sure that everybody gets home safely. And what are some of the practices? What do you guys do in terms of like the safety and stuff like that? What are some of the steps that you're usually taking?
We do provide a lot of in-house training. Sometimes if it's a green person that we've got on board, we may leave him with a competent person to be trained, sometimes up to 2 months. And just let them learn. And we provide workshops, we provide in-house training. We sit down with our safety manager at all times. We have these weekly meetings. We got our engineers meeting. We sit down with all the engineers, basically mention some of the issues that they had during the course of that last week, the solutions that they come up with. So you're constantly teaching, and we got our supervisors, we bring them in and talk about in our meetings, whether it's the workshop or something like that. So, and nowadays technology helps in that sense as well. You got that WhatsApp group messages or your group messages. You're constantly messaging, hey, just be aware, these are the issues that we had. These are the things that you need to do. And so you don't have these issues. And we work closely with whatever bulletins they get posted in regards to safety. We get that
From the Piling Federation.
From the Piling Federation, assess it and see how we can implement those changes into our business to make sure that these incidents don't repeat itself on our company. So look, it's a challenging industry, and it is high risk, and you cannot take shortcuts. So it's very, very important that everyone gets the right training, and you work very closely with the guys on site, and don't take shortcuts.
One of the things that I do, I mean, we're just a small company, a smaller company, but as soon as something, that we have a near miss or something happens, or, we noticed something that could be, even before anything happens, if we notice something that could be done better and safer, we automatically send we have our Terraquip group message, on WhatsApp, as you said. It was, as soon as you said that, I remembered. And we let people know, when we give examples with photos and all this stuff, not what to do and what not to do. And on top of that, what we also did is we actually hired an external safety manager, which we paid for to come and spend with us for a couple of days to work with us and try to identify, potential hazards into what we do. It's hard to know all the jobs that you're going to do, right, and all the tasks, because these machines are so complex, but at least the general tasks that we're doing, in terms of servicing, in terms of troubleshooting, what needs to happen. And it's such a it was eye-opening. It gave us so many points that we could improve to become better at this. And in the same way, when if someone finds out how to solve a particular issue, that we've never dealt with, automatically in our Monday morning meeting, what we do is we go like, okay, what did we learn? What's new this week? Share with everybody, So then all the other, 3-4 technicians can find out what this technician has been through. And then I find out about it, right? So, and hopefully we remember it, because there's just so many things.
It's similar things. Look, it's the same industry we work in. Like I said, if there's anything that we can improve on to make sure that it's safety compliance, we write these toolbox talks with photos. We go out on site, spend an hour if it means in the morning with the guys. You go through the toolbox talks, you go through the photos, you explain the scenarios, the near misses, and how we can avoid these situations and get everyone else's input. Sometimes being in the office, you may say that's my solution, but on site it's a different thing. So when you do these toolboxes, you get that feedback.
Absolutely, it's got to be practical, right? If you want something to get implemented, you got to make it easy to be implemented.
100%.
Otherwise, nobody's going to take it on board.
Then we take that on board, we assess it, and if it makes sense, we go in and we'll basically make it a rule in the company that this is the way we need to start doing things to make sure that we are safety.
Obviously, at Terraquip Talk, I like to talk a lot about equipment, right? This is my passion. Piling rigs are my passion. Obviously, CF Group is very German sort of dominated sort of equipment. Bauers and Liebherrs and stuff like that. What's your favorite?
It's hard to say, to be honest. Look, like you said, we are German driven. We have a lot of Liebherr and Bauer machines.
So we need to work with Klein. as well.
That's right.
You're
yes.
missing the client pumps.
True that. Yes, we are looking into them. So with that in say, we every job takes, you got to assess every job before you place a machine on site. Liebherr, they're high torque, they're efficient machines. They're easy to set up. Where Bauer is, purpose built for specific tasks and specific, designs of different types of methods and so on. So, depending on the job, we choose the right machine. So if you were to ask me to pick one, I would say, look, I still would go between Liebherr and Bauer.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
They're both good machines, but yeah.
Bauer has done amazingly this last sort of few years.
Yep.
It was a time when Liebherr was doing amazing, and then Bauer, and then I feel like this kind of like waves, between the two of them. But I remember from that time, from the times that I used to catch up with Tony a lot, he was talking highly about about his machines, and
he likes his machines.
Yeah. So I think CF Group has now, we were talking a little bit earlier about 20 to 25 machines, correct? Piling rigs?
Yeah. From, shoring machines, whether CSM, CFA, Kelly, Vibro. We do a lot of anchoring as well, so in-house anchoring. The Clem machines and the Tamrocs. And we've got about 15 excavators as well now, so that support these machines.
15 excavators with the drilling attachment, or
some have drilling attachments, but they're normally just to support the rigs.
Just to support the rigs. Okay. Yeah, very, very interesting for sure. And in terms of we were talking earlier about the pumps. By the way, what pumps do you guys work with when it comes to CFA?
We have the Liebherr pumps, the Schwings and Transcrates.
Liebherr string. Okay, so still German. Well, used to be German, now it's Chinese.
And one Solneck as well.
So with the climb pumps, I mentioned to Tony, and he's seriously looking at them as well. Is a huge advantage that no other pump has on the market is the almost vibration free pumping, right? So when you're talking about the translation between the S tube, right? When the S tube moves from one cylinder to the other, you don't have that aggressive banging and the jerking of the hose as well, right? Because of the only system that Klein is the only one that does it with the magnetic strip inside the cylinder. So they can measure with the cylinders can communicate with a proximity of like literally 0.1, 0.2 mil, to know the exact position, to achieve that smooth, consistent pumping,
That's good.
So that's one of the...
No, we are thinking it's one of the options that we put on the table, especially it comes without the AdBlue. So
we can bring them in tier 3 or tier 4 final. No problem at all.
So that's been one of the driving factors as well.
In terms of the new equipment and new technologies, even from Bauer or Liebherr, what do you expect the future is going to bring?
The future, what I can see now is these new technologies, they work hand in hand with the operators.
Okay.
I remember when I started on site, when I was a site engineer, the supervisor used to put me on the side of the rig. They're like, okay, as soon as put on the hose and count the strokes, so you don't get a blockage. So I'm next to the operator. I'm like 1, 2, 3, 4. You're counting, so so he doesn't get a blockage. That was one of my first experiences. Then you saw that evolution happen, where you have real-time monitoring on the rigs now. You got all these pressure sensors, you got all these reporting that comes to you. So it becomes more operator friendly. You're not just relying on the operator, and the operator can get a sense of what he's drilling in and get that real-time information and work with that to, improve his drilling and make it as efficient as possible. So I can see that improving in the future. I'm not sure to what extent, because you're still drilling into unknown ground conditions. You still need a lot of operator input, but I would say the technology is improving where it will assist the operator to take that information on board and change his drilling techniques to suit the ground conditions.
Because for a very long time, especially in our industry, what are you talking about, a crane operator or a piling rig operator? It was a lot about feel, right? About hydraulic, about the sound.
Yeah.
Like one of the operators was saying, So when I was trained, they used to tell me that you should be able to drill a hole just by listening
Yeah.
to the noise that the rig is making, right? The engine, the hydraulic pump, the tool in the ground, and all this stuff. Nowadays is because we're obviously moving so much more, and technology has evolved so much. We're moving so much more into like computerized systems, sensors, and all that sort of stuff. Where do you see this? You know, like, how do you see this playing a role in terms of the competency and the experience of the operators? I mean, I'll give you an example, right? Before, the people in my position, right, sales manager, they used to travel to different countries just literally with a map.
Yeah.
Try to, you know what I mean, try to find their way. And they're amazing at going to new places and remembering, you know, their way and stuff like that. Nowadays, you know, I'm always relying on my phone. I'm completely dumb. Like, you try to send me somewhere without my phone, there's a big chance I'm still gonna I'm gonna get lost, you know, in the next 3 hours, 4 hours.
Yeah.
Right? So I always think about it like, yes, technology is amazing, but sometimes it, you know, it kind of like decreases our ability to, you know, to feel, to learn, to, you know, to become better.
And
what's your opinion on this?
look, I kind of agree with you. You know, back in the days, we used to have street directories, and you know, you're trying to plan plan your route accordingly, and you follow that. And then evolved into a GPS, and now you just rely on your phone. You put the address, and it takes you there without thinking how you even got there. It's the same, but you know, the operators that I had, especially the older ones, and they used to tell me when they first started, is just feel the rock and feel how they're drilling, and you know, adjust their drilling techniques accordingly to what they're feeling and what their sense is. But these days now, the technology has evolved where you can actually, it's hard to show them the feeling, but with the real time monitoring, and you can see that torque spike, and when at least they will get the sense, okay, that torque spike gives me that sense of feeling, and that penetration gives me that sense of feeling. So, you know, where back in the days, I would say possibly it was taking an operator to get to that stage about 5 or 10 years to get that knowledge or experience. Now you can pick it up in a year or two. I'm not saying it's possibly the best way, but it's still, you know, it gets you to that target faster. And the reason is, you know when that torque spike is, that's what I'm hitting the rock, and that's the sense of feeling that I'm getting on the penetration. That's the sense of feeling I'm getting. And these operators are dealing with a lot more now, the information provided to them, so their brains are constantly working and taking that information, adjusting to it. So I believe where we are now, it has evolved, and possibly for the better, and where we're going to be will be even better with the different types of technologies that will be coming.
Yeah, one of the things with IMT was they were actually one of the first piling manufacturers to introduce computers, right? To introduce this drill by wire sort of thing, you know. And it wasn't a great experience. They had some massive issues with their first unit, and then they decided that we're gonna move back to. Of course, there's drilling technologies, and there's, you know, different sort of operators, different companies, different mentalities. It's not a one size fits all sort of thing, you know. But IMT's mentality has always been just hydraulics over electronics, less things to go wrong. Because a lot of the times, what they notice in the piling industry, it's not the hydraulics that mess up. It's not the mechanics. It's usually the electronics or the software.
Yeah.
So the least amount of electronics that, you know, the better. But that's, you know, again, that's just their mentality. And look, we do have, you know, clients out there. They've been drilling for the last maybe 17 years.
Yeah.
CFA, never ever have they seen a John Lutz or a Gampel and Hatlapa or an NDT system or anything like that. The operator just feels like it goes like, I know exactly how much concrete I've got.
But
like
that's one way to look at the
I know
technology.
how many trucks I've got. I count the trucks.
That's it. Yeah.
That's how I know the volume.
Yeah. That's one of the ways of looking at the technology. The other ways is, you know, you could be out in the remote, in the middle of the desert drilling, and your machine breaks down. You need to identify these issues. So one of the things that I like about Liebherr is they got this, you know, interactive softwares that you can work with, and they're able to extract the data remotely from their office. If we're working in Gold Coast and the machine breaks down, they're able to extract that data. Well, okay, you know what? I can see that sensor, whether it's the AdBlue or whatever it is, it's faulty. We'll put it on a ship, or we'll put it on a flight and
so
take
trying
it
to
out
like a preventive sort of maintenance. And
that's right. And
yeah.
when we're in the office, we're able to go into these softwares and see the the efficiency of the rig, how many hours has it been idle, and the productivity rates that it's achieving. And we work with that, input, the data that we get. We work to see how we can, improvise and take it on and improve on the ways
what
we
you
drill.
do. Yeah, it's interesting. We're definitely heading into some interesting times, and we'll see, I guess, how it evolves. And what sort of new technologies are going to come at play. You mentioned earlier, and we do know it can be a stressful industry with a lot of challenges at times and a lot of pressure. What do you do to, I guess, what sort of hobbies do you have, or how do you deal with that sort of outside of work? How do you manage to switch off?
There are two things that
if you do switch off.
No, I do. You have to switch off. So there's two things that I take, and I don't take it for granted. So one is my fitness, and two is my family. So I'm an early morning person. So wake up really early. I hit the gym early, trying to get that energy out of me as early as possible. So I'm on site at 7 o'clock with a relaxed mind, and if there's any issues that come up or any complications, I'm dealing it with it, not that with the energy drive, and at least with a calm mind.
You can't deal with you're not responding with all the energy because you've used it at the gym.
That's
you got
right.
no energy left.
That's right. So we wake up at 3:30 a.m. in the morning. You hit the gym, and by 6 o'clock you're on the road. You're 7 o'clock on site. You're doing your toolboxes, your pre-starts meeting with the guys.
Yeah.
And then at the same token, try to when you start early, you can also finish on a reasonable time. So we do 10-hour shifts every day. If I call it off at 5 o'clock, 5:30, I'm home. I get to spend time with the kids, and you have dinner with the family. You do your homeworks with them. You take them out to the park or play with them. Just that calms me down. On the weekend, if it means
that makes one of us, because that does not calm me down.
No,
I've got 3 little girls.
Yeah,
very intense. A lot of energy.
It is intense. A lot of energy.
And I'm like, I got nothing left.
They do take time.
Can we just watch something?
No, when I get home and I see them running towards me like that,
for sure.
When you get that
feeling,
hug and when you get that kiss, you're like, okay, that's the whole intention of my work.
That's the whole meaning. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Murat, unfortunately, our time is up. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And guys, look, we're gonna have more professionals from our industry. I think the people are kind of seeing now that we got more people on, so they want to come in and take. We have a lot of people booked, which is fantastic. Please stay tuned. And until next time, please remember, if it's not turning, you're not earning. Thanks for tuning in to Terraquip Talk. If you enjoyed this episode, the best way to support us is by leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And don't forget to subscribe on YouTube so you never miss an episode. You can also find out more from me on all social media platforms. The links are below. Until then, remember, if it's not turning, you're not earning.